Alright, it appears to be working. No viewers to invite yet. Invite. Invite. I don't know who else to invite. Okay. Alright. I see. Let's see. Hello, Anna Moore. Can you hear me?
We'll put away our 1080p webcam
Yep,
and
yep.
microphone because Facebook is stupid.
Okay. Alright, bring them on camera. Okay, so can you hear me? Yep, okay, great. So you can finally hear me. That's good. Alright, so here's Stella. Is it right side up for you?
You never hold your phone vertically when you're recording video, babe.
It told me to flip it. Okay.
There you go.
Is it still right side up for you? We hear you. Okay, good. Alright, so it's right side up for you again. Hello, Maddie Tyler, Anna Moore, Alicia. Sideways now. Okay, great. Alright, so now I think we're right side up. Sideways? No. There's a delay. I'm trying to figure out how you're answering what I have asked like 5 seconds ago. Okay.
Oh, why is it vertical? That's terrible.
Alright, so here's Stella. Can you bring up, let's see. I'll just try and remember what I said about Stella. Stella is hiding. This is a thing that she does very well. And I'm going to try and coax her out. Oh, there she is. Can you see her legs? There she is. Alright, so I've got it on the no flip it back. Like this. I see thumbs ups. Okay. I'm going to make sure that it's not sideways.
Why is the delay so long?
The delay is really long. Well, it's like a minute.
Yeah, that's what you're doing now. It's up to date now.
Okay. Alright, I'm going to flip it this way because that's what it's doing. I don't know if it has to do with how I started filming or what, but anyway. So here's Stella. I hope you're right side up. Can you hold up this flap for me?
Why are we opening it already?
She is a green bottle blue. That's her common name. Her scientific name is Chromatopelma cyaneo-pubescens, which, if you're identifying a specific tarantula, they're kind of similar and you want to use their scientific name, but green bottle blue or GBB is good. I'm going to try and lure her out by making her think that I am... Ooh, there she is. Making her think that I'm a bug. Look at my pretty girl. No, I do not clean the webs in her cage. I try and leave them undisturbed, although she can actually build them back pretty quickly. And she actually maintains them. She was building a little more web yesterday with her little spinnerets twiddling. So speaking of her spinnerets, let's identify the parts of her body for the kids. In case you printed off which I wish I could ask you if I can see it, but in case you printed off the paper that I linked, so you can see she has 8 legs. She's really getting riled up. I haven't fed her in a while, so she's probably very hungry. I'll try and turn her without scaring her. She's pretty shy, so... Alright, so you can see she has 8 legs. They are attached to her head. Can you imagine having all your legs, all 8 of them attached to your head? She also, at the top, you're going to see 2 long legs at the top, and in between those are, some people refer to them as feelers, but they're kind of like hands. She uses those when she's exploring, and when she's catching her food, she uses those. And in between her little arms, you can see her fangs. They're usually sort of tucked away, out of the way like that, except for when she grabs her food, she pokes into it with her feelers. I know that on the sheet I shared, it didn't actually share fangs. But I think it did share the miniature arms. So let's see. Okay, so there's her head, which technically is called the cephalothorax. Most bugs have 3 body pieces. Arachnids, which Stella, spiders, tarantulas are arachnids, they have only 2 body portions. And that is one thing that sets them apart from insects. Those shiny little beads behind her fangs on top of her head are her eyes. She has kind of some spiders' eyes are a lot more obvious. If you've seen jumping spiders, they're very obvious. And they're very active, and they move around a lot, and they need their large eyes for jumping. But Stella is not a jumper. Yep, they are attached to what is effectively her head. See, so those little beady things. How old is Stella? She's about
6 months.
7.
7.
I think we got her in December, and she had molted once. She's about 7 months.
Should talk about the exoskeleton.
Yeah. So, all outside her body, outside her head, and her abdomen, or her rear part, and outside her legs, are her exoskeleton. She can breathe through her exoskeleton. Tarantulas have little lungs called book lungs. They're kind of like gills, but for air, if you know what fish's gills look like. Those are on the bottom of her abdomen, which, let's see, where's my finger? This part is her abdomen, and you can actually see her little spinnerets. How long will she live? That is a good question. Males only live for 4 or maybe 5 years, but Stella, hopefully she's female. We don't know 100%, but I'm pretty sure she's female. She will live up to 14 years. And as she grows, her exoskeleton does not grow. So she actually has to shed her exoskeleton in a process called molting, which she'll stop eating and she'll hide in her tunnel and she'll lay on her back, and eventually, it takes some time, but eventually she'll sort of pop open the lid of her head and abdomen and wriggle out her legs, wriggle out everything, and she's not exposed. Like her insides aren't exposed. She has a new exoskeleton underneath.
It's soft.
But it's soft at first and it has to harden. Will she need a larger cage? Yes. So, right now she's probably 2 or 3 inches in diameter with her legs outstretched. I might guess like 3 inches. But once she is an adult and fully grown, she will be twice as long and wide. And I do have a cage somewhat prepared for her. It's a 10-gallon aquarium. So once she's outgrown this critter keeper, I'm going to move her into there so that she has more room to web, more room for her water. And you might wonder, why does she have water? But she does actually drink. I was kind of surprised when I saw her drinking. Are there more questions? I mentioned her hairs that she can throw. You can see there's a shiny portion on her abdomen. And that's a patch of hairs she can throw in defense. If she were in the wild and something were bothering her, she could kick up those hairs and they float in the air and they would get in your nose and eyes and really irritate your nose and eyes if they got in there. So she usually does not use venom as a defense. Spiders will bite if they're feeling squished. So that's sometimes why you get bit in your home. But Stella only uses her fangs on her food. How much does she poo? Do you have to clean her poo? No, I don't have to clean her poo. And I don't think I've ever seen her poo. Unless maybe that white spot on top of her log is a poo.
Just change the substrate every few months.
Yeah, so it's not anything that I really have to maintain, except that occasionally we can change her substrate or the dirt that's in the bottom of her enclosure. Yeah, so you don't really think about how they poo or how they drink water until you're really watching them. Oh, you can see her little spinnerets again. Whoop, there they are at the bottom of her abdomen. And she has, that's where the gland is, where she produces silk. And they sort of act like tiny fingers or maybe tiny knitting needles. And they pull the silk out and she places it very precisely and sticks it all over the place. Does she normally eat insects? In the wild, she would have other food she would eat. We do feed her insects, and of course, the smaller she is, the smaller insects she would eat. So starting out as a hatchling, as a spiderling, she would probably have eaten wingless, flightless fruit flies. But right now she eats adolescent dubia roaches. And once she's larger, she'll eat probably adult roaches. But in the wild, once she got larger, she could probably eat small lizards, small mice, and those kinds of things. Which, speaking of which, in the wild, she's found in northern South America, in Venezuela. Yuck, yeah. Yeah, messing with food items is not necessarily the high point.
Yeah, a lot of people will feed them crickets, but because we cultivate our own, the roaches are actually quieter. They have no smell, whereas crickets stink, and they don't bite, whereas crickets can bite. So if you were just picking them up at the pet store to feed once in a while, crickets would be fine. But for keeping yourself, roaches are the way to go.
Yeah. All right. I'm glad you could join us, Alicia. I hope you have a good rest of the day. Sorry we took so long to get started, but I don't know why my settings would not work. Messenger would not accept my settings. Do you mind getting a small dubia that's kind of freshly shed? What?
It's gotta be hard to find one that's freshly shed.
No, they're light in color.
I know, but there's not always one available. How big do you want? Like there?
Like,
Okay, so one instar past the baby.
sure. All right, so like I said, she has not eaten, which if you're wondering how frequently she eats, it's once or twice a week, depending on whether she is out hunting. Like right now, she seemed really eager to come out and investigate what was moving her web. So right now she's probably hungry. You can see her coloration on her abdomen. She has some stripes. Looks like she has a wig on her head. She's got some stripes. Her orange coloration will stay there. Her head is going to change color, and her legs are going to become brighter blue. Right now they're kind of like teal or greenish. Good.
Am I going to show it?
Oh, okay. Well, we're gonna try and feed her.
This is a dubia roach. Sorry, I bumped the cage.
Okay, so yeah, here's a little dubia. It's an adolescent. Is she more active at night or daytime? She's nocturnal. But she doesn't seem to really care what time of day it is that I feed her. I mean, I try and feed her closer to nighttime, but she's an ambush predator, and she's pretty, what's the word? She'll just take advantage of the situation if she feels... I'm not going to be able to grab that. Can you hold this?
Camera.
All right,
Yeah.
Nick is going to take the camera. And I'm going... Whoop! I mistook where its head was. Okay, so I'm going to grab a hold of it using these. What are they called?
Hemostats.
Hemostats. I think I probably called them the wrong thing earlier. Alright, so Stella, I'm going to lower this down for her and see if she takes it quickly. So what I do is... Oh, she's coming for it. There you go. I touched her hide. Whoops. come on. You can see she's kind of grabbing a hold with her little feely hands. If I let go of it, well, let's try.
Sometimes dubia roaches play dead.
Yeah.
And it can cause the spider to not recognize that they are prey.
Let me try poking it with the, you can see where she's kind of holding on to it to see what it is with her little feet. So I'm going to give it a little jostle. Oh!
There she goes.
Yeah, there she goes.
There's the fangs.
Yeah, see her in action. Oh. I closed that too loudly, but she's still kind of got a hold of it. There she is, taking it into her. Would she eat dead insects? Possibly when she's smaller. The breeder would take parts of like grasshopper legs and put them in for her to eat. Because she would have been so small. But once she's larger, she's definitely foremost a hunter. And it helps if whatever they're trying to eat is moving, just so that they know that that's food and that's not like a leaf or something that fell into their nest. So yeah, she's going to kind of sink her fangs into that until it's completely immobilized. And her mouth is right beneath her fangs, and she can kind of just chew it up. And she may not leave anything behind, but typically there's usually kind of a shell left behind. So I think that's pretty much most information so they can't really see well. Yeah, tarantulas, that's a good question. Tarantulas are definitely more of, at least Stella, the green bottle blues, are more sensitive to vibration. They don't have very good vision when it's very bright. And they can see well enough to see like shadows and shapes, but she's not like the jumping spider is very visually oriented. She's not very visually oriented. How long will it take her to eat it? I'm not really sure. At least a day or two, and then she actually discards whatever is left, which is usually a piece of the exoskeleton. She'll discard it outside of her nest, and I'll just be able to pick up what's left. So it might take a couple of days. And it's interesting that once she has eaten, her abdomen grows. So you can tell if she's had a meal recently, if her abdomen is really big. That's actually where all her organs are, or most of her organs are there. Her intestines and everything, they're in her abdomen. You can see she's doing something in there. You can still see a little bit of movement, but yeah, she's pretty well serving up dinner in there. Are there any more questions before we close on Stella having a meal? That's okay if we've covered most everything. Um, if you're curious what the dubias taste like, they usually smell like whatever we've been feeding them. So if they've just eaten an apple, we'll give them apple cores. If they've just eaten an apple, they smell like apple. And if we've given them bits of green pepper to eat, they smell like green pepper. I think that's just about everything I can think of to cover.
If you're thinking of getting a green bottle blue or any tarantula, know that it does help to know the individual species, because some of them you can handle, some you can't. Some the venom is mild, some it's not. But generally speaking, they are very easy to take care of. They can survive at room temperature just fine, or at least most species in the pet trade can. They only eat about once a week, if that. The only real inconvenience is just having to provide the live feeders.
Yeah. Can see her bum. You can see her little spinnerets folded up on the back end.
Her coloration is going to change as she gets older as well. She's going to be a lot more brightly colored even than now.
Yeah. With every molt, every time she sheds her exoskeleton, she becomes more brightly colored. Saw a bunch of emotes flying up. Yeah, so she's digging in right now. And again, we feed her objects that are about the size of her abdomen. So if you can imagine eating like at least half your body weight once every week, that's kind of how Stella eats. So I want to thank everyone. First of all, I want to apologize for the technical difficulties at the beginning of the video. And I want to thank everyone for coming. We're going to try and do this regularly. Not sure how often quite yet. But, yeah. Yeah, Stella is enjoying her yummy roach. Yeah, that is a lot of food. Yeah, certainly it might double compared to what you've seen. It might double in size. So I don't mind if anyone wants to stick around. If you want to open up your own room to continue to visit. But I think that's about all for Stella for today. So again, thanks everyone for coming. I'm glad you enjoyed it. You probably enjoyed it more. Yeah. I know sometimes little ones can have shorter attention spans, especially when you're mostly just looking at web and a leg and some subtle movements. But I think Stella's pretty amazing. She's really interesting to watch. I usually keep her on my computer desk and she'll just come out and wander around. She can actually climb the plastic. I'm curious whether or not she can climb the glass of the 10-gallon I'm going to put her in eventually. So we can see. We'll have to see how she does. Ryan said or Ian said? I could see either one saying that, so. Again, I apologize for the delay. It's like a whole minute. Alright, so I think that's good for today.
Yep.
So thanks everyone for coming. And we'll see you again hopefully next week.